Greetings, Cleveland, and welcome to Creative Focus, the show that illuminates some of Cleveland's most talented and creative artists across the genres of film, dance, music, theater, and visual arts. I'm your host, Cornell Calhoun III, and I am thrilled to have on our show today on Creative Focus award-winning playwright, director, filmmaker, photographer, straight out of East Cleveland, Mr. Michael Oatman. Mike, welcome to Creative Focus. Let's chop it up, man.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So I wanna read something to you.
Okay.
For me, the beauty of theater is that it lives. It's not an artifact. It wrestles with us and forces us to wrestle with it. Plays live in real time. Actors can reach out and touch you. Good drama is not a spectator sport. It's subtle, give and take, a delicate dance between actor and audience, playwright and the world. I have often mused that playwrights are the special forces of the creative writing world. They parachute in, give truth, and watch as the walls tumble.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like how you did that.
Yeah,
you wrote that?
Yeah, no, I wish I had wrote it.
That's pretty good.
So this totally resonated with me. This is the first time I actually read that, and you don't recall when you wrote it.
I have no clue. Somewhere along the way.
But it is so true about theater and drama. And you have such an impressive resume. Besides being a friend of mine, I mean, you know, the second Playwright-In-Residence at Karamu House. The first one was Langston Hughes.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Art Prize, the Lantern Award. It just goes on and on and on with Mr. Michael Oatman.
Also make a hell of an omelet. So let's not forget that.
So how did all this creative force come for you?
Really by accident. I mean, really by accident. I was kind of a bad student in school. I wasn't very good. I was kind of slow, and I've always kind of been in, like on a slow bus when it comes to that kind of thing.
Short bus.
Yeah, I'm a short bus type brother. I had a IEP before they were cool, but I fell in love with this girl, and at Shaw High School. Still remember her name, Abena Johnson, this beautiful student that was at Shaw, dark-skinned, beautiful woman. And I wrote a poem about her because I had fallen for her as an expression. And of course, I was too afraid and not confident enough to actually get the girl. But long after that passion died away, I looked at the piece and I liked it, and I like the feeling of creation, that I had birthed this thing that did not exist before. And there was this poem that was sort of professing my love to Miss Johnson, wherever you are. Shout out to Abena. And from there on, that creative spark, I start writing poems. And my mother really encouraged it. And I was a poet for a long time. I wrote a lot of poetry. And I even ended up writing a lot of sort of female poetry under a lot of female pseudonyms. Rita Hardbow and Rita Swoon and Gail Hardbow were sort of these female poems I was writing. And I wrote a lot of female poems because at the time when you look through the books, those were the ones that paid you. Like they would pay you $10 or $50. Right. I was like, okay, feminist poetry it is.
Right.
And so I would write it, and I would send it off, and sort of the consistent notes that I would give back, because I was such a terrible student, such a terrible English student was. You have some real talent here, but man, your grammar is horrible. It's horrible, and your construction is horrible. So I went back to college, really not to get a degree. I just went back to college just so I can learn how to use grammar and how to use language. And so I just took a bunch of English classes to get better at writing and learning how to construct language, and my grammar did improve. And then after a while, I looked up and somebody, one of the counselors called me and said, you're done with your English degree, but now you have to go do your, all that crappy stuff, the math and all your
science,
all that stuff.
foreign language.
Which I'd failed all of those in high school. And so I was like, English degree? I don't have an English degree. She's like, yeah, you have enough classes for an English degree. You got to go finish the 2 years of crap. And so I was like, well, I guess I should go finish an English degree, I guess. And so I kind of stumbled into my English degree in that way.
And is that how you found theater? I mean,
theater found me. It was one of those things where I got contacted by a gentleman in the theater department because they were doing a theater program, and I had been known as a writer, and they wanted somebody to write a play to sort of add some diversity to the to the festival. So I wrote a play, and it was kind of a hit. People really liked it. It really spoke to people. And you know what the first play was?
What?
Crazy enough,
What?
It was about this mythical world in which abortion is made illegal. And so that was the first thing I wrote, which actually ran in the last Borderlight Festival that
what
we
was
had.
the name of that play?
Not a Uterus in Sight.
Okay.
And so that became kind of my first foray in the theater. Was that play, and it really spoke to people, and it spoke to me. I was like, that was interesting. And so then I would write another play, and then another play, and then they start almost immediately. I was getting produced places, and so it was one of those things where it wasn't a real thing, and then next thing I know, I'm really producing stuff, and so that's kind of how it happened. I kind of stumbled into it.
And then was it just a natural for you to start directing? How did the directing come about?
Directing was just something I did to kind of pass time, because I would be out, once I was at Karamu, you can only produce a play so many times. Even if you're a successful, well-produced playwright, you can only do that once or twice a year. So directing was some of the stuff I did in the middle. And then I really started to develop a love for it, because at first I worked in the youth theater. It was one of those things that, hey, X, Y, and Z can't direct a play. Well, Michael's sitting in his office. I guess I'll go direct the play. So I went and directed the play, as a stopgap. And then I really found a love in it and a real passion for it. And then I just continued. And again, that's how it's always happened for me. I've always kind of stumbled into it in my career, which is weird. I have a master's degree, and I've never taken a major test in my life. I've never taken Iowa Basic Skills. I've never taken the GRE. I've never taken the SAT. I've never taken the ACT. I have stumbled my way into being a professor. I don't even know how that happened. I want to go find Miss Press, my old.
So who are some of the playwrights that you admire? Obviously, August Wilson.
Yeah, August Wilson came late for me, though.
Okay.
He really did. The first people that I really, that really called to me is some of these playwrights that people wouldn't normally kind of associate me with. Somebody like David, I'm blanking right now, Glengarry Glen Ross, Arthur. Some of these plays that dealt with language, I found a lot of those interesting.
Okay.
Early on. I only came to August Wilson later as a director, oddly enough. I didn't come to him as a playwright, I came to him as a director. Once I directed his work and just realized the depth of what he was doing, that's when I fell in love with August Wilson.
Because you directed Gem of the Ocean at Karamu House in
I think I've done
2012. And then we did Jitney in 2013 at the New African Theater.
Yeah, and I did Fences. And I did piano lesson.
Where did you do piano lesson at?
Out at True North Theater. Okay. Which was a hell of an experience. It was a good experience.
Tell me what type of actors do you typically cast for your play? What type of actors do you look to cast in your plays? Are you more for the experienced veteran actor, or are you a director who can see the potential in maybe a younger actor or even a middle-aged person who hasn't had a lot of experience? It doesn't matter to you?
Yeah, my experience has been dealing with people that I cultivate, people that I find oftentimes not as experienced as some other actors, but have some attribute that I really like about them. You know, sometimes they're not the it actor when I find them, but later on, I'm very proud to say, you know, I work with them, we do stuff together, we grow together, we experience together, and then pretty soon I can barely book them. You know, the Janine Gaskins of the world, who when I first started working with Janine, she wasn't the it actor, now she's one of the hottest directors in town. Daryl Tatum, when I first started working with Daryl Tatum, he was more of a guy who did plays with the church and other places and wasn't as hot or the it guy. Then I started working with him, and he just started taking off. I mean, Daryl Tatum was one of the best actors in this city.
Yeah, we had him on Creative Focus.
Oh, he's amazing. I mean, he's an amazing actor. And you talk about August Wilson. Nobody can eat those words up and live inside of that space like a Daryl Tatum. But I've also worked with actors like you who are kind of legendary actors who have a huge following and have a huge name. And me and you know, we work together. That's some of the best experiences of my life. And I use those same experiences with you. I take those and I teach those to younger actors, where I say, hey, I work with a guy that when he's doing a play, he don't even watch TV or listen to the radio because he is in his script. And I would tell him, we at the run of the play. The play is up and running. And he's back there reading the script because he finds something new in that script every night. And I take that and I share that with those younger actors that you want to be an actor, you want to be on that level, this is what it takes. This is what it requires. And so I've done a mix of both. You know, I've had a mix of both and found greatness in both experiences, the cultivated actor that you bring up or working with that great actor that's already there, or like the Rodney Freemans of the world. And Rodney Freeman is just very well trained. You know, he trained with one of the legendary theater people in Omaha, Nebraska, where I now teach, oddly enough. And he's a very learned actor, but my goodness, is he magnificent. Yeah. And I take his process sometimes and I share that with the younger actors.
You know, he created the Johnny Dollar role in the Mighty Scales.
Amazing in that role. Just those socks alone. When he pulls that knife out, he's amazing, you know. And that's that August Wilson thing where you take the Black experience, and you do that so well. You take the Black experience and you bring that alive to people who weren't alive to see it. You know, back when 105 was jumping like Harlem. Yeah. Like, people don't know what that is until you show it to them. Yeah. You know, and they say, oh, this is just a play. No, this was life in Cleveland.
Yeah. You know? I can remember growing up, and when we would go back to school, my mother would say, you want to go downtown or you want to go to 105?
Exactly.
Because 105 was just like going downtown.
It was jumping.
Yeah, it was jumping.
It
was jumping.
Oh my goodness, Scatterbrain back in those days where you had all those old guys that had shops and stores and you had money just piling through the community. You had huge celebrities. When they came to town, they went down to 105. They went to some of those places. You could have seen some of the biggest stars, you know, what for young people would be the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's of the world.
Exactly.
That's where they would come when they would come to Cleveland. People don't realize that.
105,
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring that stuff alive. I love that stuff, you know, because I'm a history nerd.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things that I try to produce and put out there so people can see what our history was and before what it is now, you know. This isn't what it always was, you know.
So let's flip the coin a little bit.
Okay.
So when did you get into photography? Because I looked at some of your work and it's just like incredible. And I don't remember you being a photographer when we first met. When our paths first crossed, we were basically theater. So talk a little bit about the photography aspect.
Oddly enough, when I started writing initially, I wasn't a playwright. I was a newspaper person. When I was 19, 20, I worked for newspapers. That's what I was known for. Writing columns, writing news stories, writing critical artists. I was a critic. That's what I was doing. And so what would happen is I worked for a lot of small papers like Cleveland Life, City News, Call and Post. very often what you would do with those organizations, because they were so small, they didn't have a staff photographer. You would go take your own pictures. And so, and also when I was in college, I trained in a dark room.
Oh, wow.
My initial training was in a dark room with the developer, and then you put the finisher and all of that stuff on there. That was my training. And so I was trained as a photographer almost from the very beginning, because I was a newspaper man. I ran the Cauldron newspaper down at CSU when I was a student, and also ran the Vindicator. I'm probably the first person to be the editor of both of those papers and organizations. I think I might be the only one that I know of.
I wrote for the Vindicator when I was in college. I had a cartoon, which was Soul Dog, and because I had a friend who was a cartoonist, so we did Soul Dog, and then I had a feature article every month called Rag Rap, and we would talk about fashion. So, are you a impulsive photographer, or, I mean, what's your favorite subject to shoot?
Probably Black women.
Okay.
I do a lot of photography with African American women. I do other things too, but that's probably what I've been known for. Portraits, and it started all those years ago at CSU when I was trained as a photographer, and then I started working for African American newspapers, and I used to do photography for my articles.
Okay, so why don't we take a look at some of Michael Oatman's photography?
Black girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines, where the sun don't ever shine, I'll shiver the whole night through.
That's incredible, Michael. That's incredible work.
Thank you.
Have you taken anything recently? Have you taken any shots recently?
I shoot all the time. And now with the invention of the iPhone, I mean, it's impossible not to just see images all over the place. You just got your phone with you and you shoot different things. So yeah, I shoot all the time.
Let's talk about a play you wrote about Tupac Shakur that garnered an article in the New York Times. I mean, how many people have an article in the New York Times? Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about the play and how it wound up in the New York Times.
Well, a lot of that came from one of my mentors, Terrence Spivey, wanted me to do a piece on that when I was at Karamu. There was a piece out at the time called, I think something about Breaking the Wind or Breaking with the Wind or something, which was a piece in New York about Tupac that hadn't been released out, and we wanted to do something dealing with that topic. So I wrote something for that reason, because it was like, of course I need to write a play about Tupac. You know, I love Tupac. I was a huge Tupac fan, and so.
What was the title of that play again?
God,
it was Tupac and Biggie.
Yeah, it had a couple different incarnations. When it started, it was called Before I Die. Right. The war between Tupac and Big.
Yeah.
And then we did like another version of it called Eclipse.
Got you.
In which we cut a lot of characters out and just made it about the two guys. It was sort of a rewrite. So it went through a developmental piece, and it also ran at the Cleveland Playhouse for their festival. And we kind of developed it. So there are different versions of it.
I think that was at the Fusion Fest.
Fusion Fest. Good memory. That's exactly. It ran there first. And then we brought it to Karamu. We did like a workshop production directed that was worked on by Hassan Rogers, another mentor of mine. And it just developed, and the final version of it was Eclipse, which only had 3 characters in it, but was a good piece.
Do you have a favorite play that you've written or directed, something that stands out in your mind, or you just love all your work?
I do love all my work. I think probably King of Cage Street.
King of Cage Street.
That's one of my favorites. That's a good piece. It's a weird piece, but it's a good piece.
And what about that play Night Mother?
Oh, I love that play. I actually got a chance to meet the author and work with her briefly. I did a, what they call, not a residency, but I forget what you call it, but you go up there and you work with a bunch of playwrights at the Kennedy Center.
Okay.
And Marcia Norman was there, and I got a chance to meet her and work with her and talk to her, and she was such a great lady. I mean, she was just such a great, interesting, funny, down-to-earth lady. And so when I came here later, I was able to direct her play. I did kind of a multiracial version of Night Mother, which was amazing, because once you made the daughter black, all of these other lines that are in the play open up in a totally different way. And that's been kind of a staple of my career, of kind of playing with race in theater and seeing how it affects different characters by putting different racial lenses on it. Sometimes it's worked out for me, and other times not so much.
Hey, let's take a look at a clip of Night Mother.
Mama, I know you used to ride the bus.
I'm not talking about the fits here, Jessie. I'm talking about this killing yourself.
And riding the bus is bumpy and hot and noisy and too crowded. And more than anything in the world, you just want to get off.
It has to be me that's the matter here. You wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't.
Well, I can get off right now if I wanted to. Because even if I rode another 50 years and got off then, it's still the same place when I step down to it.
This is all my fault, Jessie. But I don't know what to do about it now.
Whenever I feel like it, I can get off. And as soon as I feel like I've had enough, it's my stop.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that clip. Tell us a little bit more about, so how many characters did you use in this?
In Night Mother?
Yes.
2.
It was cut 2, okay.
It's a 2-character piece about a mother and a daughter. The daughter is ill and has been ill for a long time, and she's depressed, and she basically makes the decision that she wants to end her life. And she's having this conversation with her mother, negotiating the end of her life, essentially. And it's an amazingly, beautifully written piece.
Okay, it's time to flip again because you're so multi-talented. What was the inspiration for Oatman Films? I like that title too, Oatman Films.
Yeah, you know, part of it was you. You know, you have always been an inspiration to me, somebody that I could model myself after and follow.
Thank you.
But watching what you did with films, it was one of those things where it's like, oh, we can't do no films. We ain't got no film cameras. We ain't got no. Then I watch like, look at Calhoun. Look what he doing. And then you start seeing the awards. Like, wait a minute. Maybe I can do this too. Maybe this is possible. You know. And so I just went and bought some cameras and
took it from there. Mike, what is the biggest difference between theater and film for you? And I ask you that because I've transformed from theater into film. I think theater is just so difficult. It's hard for an individual to get a play produced. I've been fortunate, you know, having Karamu here. I've had a couple of shows produced, but generally it's very difficult, and you know that. You've had a couple of shows produced. But film, you get a camera, you get a crew, you shoot your film, and then you put it out there. So are you transforming, or are you still in the theater mode?
I do theater still. I love theater. It's my first love. The biggest difference is control. Like, I have a lot more control over a play. With film, there's an entire other process of film that I have not involved myself in to this point and don't intend to anytime soon, of the editing process. You know, once one has said that you make a film 3 times, when you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. It's like almost making 3 different movies. And so that editing process, that shooting process, that technical process, a lot of that is about collaboration with somebody that you trust. Like in theater, I don't have to do that as much. In theater, I am far more in control of what is happening on that stage when I'm directing it, you know, especially with something that I've written and I'm directing. It's a lot more control. With a film, there are some things that need to go right with you. You need to be with some good people.
Yeah,
and you need to get a good set of people around you. Not that you don't need that in theater, but you really need it in film. I mean, because you say, what are one of the things that inspire me? One of the things that inspired me, quite frankly, and I know this is going to sound like shade because it kind of is, but it's true. I was watching a lot of independent film. You know, I watch some of these independent films coming out of Cleveland, and even some people I know and different individuals, independent stuff, and I'll be looking at that, and I'll watch the film, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm not a filmmaker, but I know I can do that.
Right.
I know I can do that. In fact, I know that I can do at least better than that.
Okay.
You know, and that guy said, hey, I want to make a film. And he didn't let nothing stop him. You know what I mean? As horrible as that is, that came from somebody that said, I got a vision and I got a dream, and I'm going to put that gangster film up there with bad looking wigs and stuff, and I'm going to make this film. I'm like, you know what? If he can do that, I can certainly do that. And I think that, unlike this guy, I think I'm a better writer than him. I know that I'm a better writer than him. Like, I don't do a lot of things well in this world. I couldn't find Germany on a map, and I couldn't add 2 + 2, but I know how to write. That's one thing that I can do, and I can do well, and I will put my writing against anybody in this world, and I mean that. I don't care who you are, what script writer you are, I will go pound for pound with you as a writer. And so when I look at that, I'll say, I can write that better. I know that I can. I can tell that story of African-American achievement better. I can find incidents and things that happen within our community that is far more interesting than some gangster fantasy nonsense. I can do better than that, and I know it. And I know that that's arrogance, but it's also true. And I feel that in my bones. And so that was one of the things where I was saying, I can tell some of these stories that aren't being told. You know, like I've seen the 8th gangster picture. Yo, man, we taking over the dope game in Cleveland. Well, damn, how many times can you take over the dope game in Cleveland? Or the 3rd date film of black people was like, oh, I'm black and we doing this dating scene. Hey, let's go pick up some chicks at the bar. Okay, I've seen that story. I know what that is. I can do better than that. I know that I can. And it's one of the things that I like about your work. It's not just about those stories that we see every day. It's about the stories that we don't see and the conversations that we don't have. And so that's one of the things that inspired me to start Handmade Films along with Oatman Films, where we went out there and we just found a bunch of African-American female artists who had never directed a thing in their life, and we said, what story do you want to tell?
Let's take a look at Oatman Films' Baby Girl with Daryl Tatum.
Was all the summer and all the fall, just trying to find my little all in all.
You okay, baby girl?
I guess so. Don't say it, Adolphus. Did you hear her in there?
I heard
She
her.
don't even know who the daddy is.
I know.
Not a clue.
I know. But look, this is the time we need to turn to our faith. It can't just be nothing we do on Sunday. Either we live that or we don't. That's our daughter in there. And not for nothing, that's our grandchild in her stomach. So we got to deal with this together as a family.
So you think I'm being hard on her?
We all fall short of the glory.
Oh, and by that you mean me?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, of course you do. Of course you do. How can I be mad at her for getting pregnant when I had her at 16? Don't you get it?
Great work, Michael.
I love that. I love that film.
What inspired?
There's a moment in that film when Daryl Tatum does this thing where he just wipes his mustache, and it's the best thing I've ever seen. Is he's like, and it's just pure evil. And it's fun for Daryl Tatum because he's such a sweet guy to see that juxtaposition. That's why he's such an amazing actor. And then Christina Johnson is amazing in that piece as well.
She is.
She's a beast.
So what projects should we look forward to seeing from Michael Oatman in the future? What are you working on?
Well, I think a theater is very interested in doing, I wrote a play called The Slap.
Okay.
about the Will Smith.
Okay.
And
okay.
It's called The Slap, and it's a love triangle between Will Smith, Jada Pinkett, and Tupac Shakur.
Okay.
And it's interesting. It's an interesting piece.
And so that's the next thing you'll be working on?
It's done. I wrote it and I sent it into a theater, and I had a Zoom with a theater in Florida that really, really likes it and really wants to take it into some form of production or a workshop production perhaps. So that conversation is ongoing. So I'm hoping that goes well because I would love to see this thing on stage.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I love that. Love that piece. And what else am I doing? Oh, I got a film coming up with Mary Wings, a short film we're doing, which is really amazing about a transgender woman, a trans woman who has sort of gone to work as a male, and now for the first time is now going fully as a female, dressed as a female. And it's about her dressing herself up and going into work to be her full and authentic self.
So did you co-write it or she?
No, not with Mary. Mary don't need no
so
help.
Then you're going to direct it.
I'm just going to direct it. Yeah, Mary is such a prolific writer.
Okay.
You talk about somebody that writes every day. My goodness.
Yes,
she don't ever write nothing light either. She swings for the fences with everything that she does.
Yes, she does.
And so when she calls me, I always sit up at attention because I know it's going to be something that is powerful and strong. And so I'm directing a short film on that, which I think is going to be really, really, really good. And I'm going to try to finish my other film with Rodney Freeman called Wolf Water and the Color of Blood. So I'll be working on that.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank my special guest, Michael Oatman, for hanging out with us today on Creative Focus. So that's it, Cleveland. We're out. But remember, a true artist is not only inspired, but inspires others. I'm Cornell Hubert Calhoun III for TV 20 and Creative Focus. Until the next time becomes our time, be well, be safe.